I basically am a graduate of IIT Madras and IIM Lucknow. That's where I've done my bachelor's and master's. Post my MBA from IIM Lucknow, I've worked for 9 years in 3 companies. All of them are multinational companies: Deloitte, Capgemini, and HiRadius. So my role evolved from being a management consultant at Deloitte to doing corporate strategy and then building AI products in Capgemini. And then in HiRadius, I've built from scratch, 0 to 1, couple of platform products, which are LiveCube and Reconciliation. Basically, these are automation products for the office of the CFO. So that's been my journey, overall career journey. From my experience of interviewing and the entire thing about transitioning to a role that I want to be. So for the last, I think, around 4 years, I've been trying to find an opportunity at FAANG. So I would make a lot of resumes and apply to them on the portals, and hardly any response I would get from FAANG companies especially. I did interview with other companies, many startups and mid-range product companies, but I've always wanted to work in a FAANG company, and that's where I started. I think this year in April is when I reached out to Interview Kickstart and did this whole process from scratch, from resume to LinkedIn portal to applying for the companies. So that's been the experience up until. Well, so all along in my last 8 years of company, right, I gained maximum, fun or, that ikigai moment, if I can say, when I'm building products. Like building products, creating value for large number of clients, where you build one product and people create so much value in their life, has been my, the best experience. So from there, I wanted to make this entire 20-30 year career, right? When I was just thinking about this whole career. For me, the goal was to work on the best products with the best teams, right? And learn a lot earlier in my career. So that's been the objective, number 1 objective. Number 2 objective was I wanted to work in a truly global setup, not really restricted to any geography, and really explore working in multiple geographies with multiple clients, multiple people. Just expose myself sooner in my career. So, and third was, I know if output of all of these 2, right, like good experience, working on good products, would be the salary, which will be an outcome or a lagging indicator, which has always been there, but it's not a primary motive that I had. And then fourth is, if I do all of this setup, the leadership roles that I can get into, right, that becomes easier. The whole narrative around your career or your positioning becomes easier for you to get into a leadership role. This is how I was looking at it from an overall career plan. So with this as a plan, that's where I was trying to find roles in FAANG, which I was talking about earlier, and then I was not able to get the calls that I wanted. So number 1, first thing is that while I was making my CV and applying for these companies, right, I wouldn't get the calls, and that would actually create a narrative in my head saying maybe it's not good enough, maybe my resume is not good enough, maybe my experience is not good enough, something is wrong with what I have. So that's the first sort of mindset that happens. Then I did, so with that mindset, and then starting to speak with multiple people, right? So when you speak with multiple people, they say your resume is so good, you have top education, you have top experience, you have leadership experience, you have consulting experience, like you have all of it. Then you get then what is happening, right? Then I started to see that though individuals who have been already in these FAANG companies, they say it's all good, but there is somewhere that guidance on a specific level, like because of the lack of time, right? Like they're so busy in their own lives. though they say that things are fine, but the meticulousness and the intensity and the rigor that is needed is up to the individual, and that's what I figured out. Like the rigor and going into the nitty-gritties was needed. So when I found out that that was needed, the challenges were multifold now. Now the next set of challenges is job, family. So what really translates it to is how much you really want it. So if you really want it, then the time that is needed for this, overcoming these obstacles, and the support that you need for making this happen. So these are the two things that I had to invest. So I invested time and then got into IK to take the support to get to that nitty-gritties in terms of what is needed. So I think if I have to summarize it up, 3 challenges, right? First is in your own head. Second is the time because of your because of my day-to-day job. So I created time. At times it really impacted my work as well, but then that's a choice that I had to make. Third is having family by your side, right? Like having them part of your journey. So I think these are the 3 challenges that I overcome. One call out is like each one would be in different levels of their journey in terms of professional experience. Someone can be junior, mid-senior, or a leadership level, right? What I will answer is from a mid to senior perspective. That's where I am with 2 years experience. There are 3 fundamental resources, if I can categorize, within IK. First is the career transformation manager, like your team, like people who are there to answer and guide in terms of how to go about in terms of planning your career and all the utilizing the resources and at an overall level from a planning level. Second type of resources is mock interviews, where there are experts who have that prior experience and can take interviews for you. Third is the content. I'll put it at the end. So for me, in this order, right, like this is how it was helpful. First was career transformation manager, you and your team, sort of helping things put in perspective of what is important at various points in time, because there is various stages of the journey, starting from identifying the goals, identifying the companies, making a resume, making your LinkedIn, then preparing for interview, attending interviews, then offer negotiation, and then taking up the right offer. So at all of these stages of the journey, guidance at each of the stages was very helpful, and that really worked for me at various stages. Number 2, most important, I think 100% sort of return from an investment perspective is mock interviews, because these are the guys who are like, I think, the best interviews that you can get, and getting access to US product guys who are in leadership positions in these FAANG companies in US sort of gives you real perspective of the leaders, right? Because FAANG company, most of the leadership is in US actually. So you get access to really good people to take mock interviews. Now, though you have access, it's up to you how do you utilize them. So that's where meticulous preparation and then validating in each interview what is the preparation that you have done. And customizing the interview based on your needs, right? That is also a flexibility that is there. It's not like there is a perfect setup, like only these things are there as part of the interview. It's open to how you want to make it happen. For example, I had 7 rounds of interviews in the company that I was interviewing. And at each stage, my requirements were different. For example, when I was preparing and I was just in a resume screening stage, at that time I was like only looking for guidance and sort of the answers were not so much refined. So it was more about guidance. Then before my pool, the whole series of interviews started, that time it was about how do I ask different kinds of questions. Then after a couple of rounds of interviews, it was a deep dive into specific aspect about, for example, if it's behavioral, what specific leadership principle, what kinds of questions can be asked, and how do I answer tough questions around that particular leadership principle. So it was around specific to that at that stage, because all the basic work was done at that. So at various stages, I customized the interviews for that needs. So that was very helpful. Third was content. Wherever needed, I accessed it. So honestly, for a mid to senior level, that was not so helpful compared to the other two interviews. But that's like the summary of how I used IK's resources. I wanted to kind of get into such companies for sure, and the fact that I got it was a great outcome in itself. The secondary to that was my interest in working outside India. So basically, I would be sort of working in a team based out of US from here, and I'm looking to see how the opportunities might come up, right? Like to be able to have that kind of option available is something that I'm looking forward to from a personal standpoint. Like, I think if I have to summarize, these are the two outcomes that I was looking for, and I'm happy that I've got here. Actually, one thing that I have to tell you, it's like around 4 to 5 years of thinking about it, which actually led to here. So what happens with that is a lot of, if I can say, rumination, sort of reflecting, reading, talking, speaking about it, sort of really imbibes you in all of those aspects, and that reflects in the interview. So one advice, if I should say, is looking at what it means to you and how you can prepare for that right now. For example, if there's something that let's take an example, right? If a product manager, if I take an example of a product manager, how would a product manager work in such a setup? If you visualize it, what does it take to do that? So from the perspective of Amazon, it's like, what are the leadership principles that you would follow while you are working as a product manager? What is a customer obsession that you would have about it if you are an Amazon product manager, right? So then if you work backwards from there, then you will see, how can I be obsessed about customer in my current role right now? So then you work on displaying that leadership principle in your current role. Then you get the opportunity to write a story around it. Then you go and speak about it in the interview, and then you get that role. So in fact, you are being that right now, what you want to be in the future. So that way, it's a win-win, right? Like, you get to be what you want right now, visualizing that. And that is what interviewer is looking for, whether you have displayed the leadership principles in the past, because that's the best predictor for him to pick you, that you would do that in the future. So if one single advice I would say, just thinking through it, like, use every resource that you have, every book, every podcast, every opportunity to sort of gain that experience, gain that knowledge, gain that, like, display that in your day-to-day life, so that whenever you get an opportunity for it, you are prepared and ready to sort of take that up. Yeah, that's like one advice.